Have you ever placed something under your pillow and felt the entire night shift? Felt your dreams become different, more vivid, as if an invisible door had opened? Tonight, when you rest your head on your pillow, you might be missing out on the greatest secret Padre Pio guarded for decades. A secret so simple, it fits in the palm of your hand. So powerful, it can reveal what your soul has been hiding for years. I'm talking about a paper cross. Ordinary? No. You discover what it truly does when placed under your pillow. You'll understand why thousands around the world can no longer sleep without it. But before I tell you how to make this cross correctly, I need to reveal something that will leave you speechless. A discovery that changed everything we thought we knew about the power of dreams in spiritual healing. December night in 68. Padre Pio was in his final months. A woman named Sister Agnes approached him after Mass, carrying a burden she could no longer bear. 3 years, she'd suffered from a deep pain the doctors couldn't explain, profound depression, anxiety that cut like a knife, and dreams that felt more like nightmares. Padre Pio looked at her that seemed to see beyond the veil of reality. He didn't ask about her symptoms. He didn't ask for details of her suffering. He simply took a piece of paper, folded it in a specific way, creating a small cross, and whispered a few words she couldn't quite hear. "Place this under your pillow tonight," he said, "and when you awaken, pay attention not only to your dreams, but to what they reveal about what is hidden in your soul." Sister Agnes did exactly as Padre Pio instructed. That first night, something extraordinary happened. She didn't just have a dream, she had a revelation. In the dream, she saw a version of herself, but a version carrying wounds she didn't even know existed. Wounds of childhood abandonment, unresolved resentments, guilt she'd buried so deep she barely remembered it. But here's the most impressive part. In the dream, that paper cross began to glow, and each wound she saw in herself, the cross touched, and the wound closed, one by one, as if it were a divine roadmap to her inner healing. When Sister Agnes awoke, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace so profound it seemed to come from a completely different dimension. Most incredible was yet to come. Can you imagine what happened on the following nights? Because what I'm about to tell you will change your understanding of how the sacred works through the simplest of objects. Each night, Sister Agnes placed the cross under her pillow. Each night, the dreams became clearer, more revealing. It was as if her soul was finally being given permission to speak, show where it hurt, to reveal where it needed healing. On the 5th night, she had the most powerful dream of all. She saw Jesus walking toward her, but he carried a cross identical to that small paper cross under her pillow. And when he drew near, he said something she never forgot. "I have always been here, waiting for you to let me, but wait. There's something about this paper cross no one knows. Something that Padre Pio himself revealed only to a few close people. When you discover this, you'll understand why this practice has silently spread throughout the Catholic world, passing from person to person. Secret treasure. The cross doesn't work because of the paper. It works because of the intention with which it's made. It works because of the specific words that must be spoken while you fold it. It works because of the exact way it must be positioned under the pillow. And most importantly, it works because of the state of mind you need to have before you sleep." Padre Pio knew something modern science is only beginning to understand, that there's a direct connection between our faith, our sacred symbols, and our subconscious mind's ability to process trauma and find healing during sleep. He knew something even deeper. When we place a symbol of the cross under our pillow, we are literally inviting Christ into our dreams. We are opening a spiritual door that only remains closed during our waking life. Here's where science meets miracle. Recent research on neuroplasticity shows that during REM sleep, our brain reorganizes traumatic memories, processes unresolved emotions, and literally rebuilds neural pathways. It's as if the brain has its own capacity for self-healing during dreams. Now imagine this combined with the spiritual presence we invoke through the cross. It's a double action of healing, physical and spiritual, working together. Sister Agnes wasn't the only one. Over the years, hundreds of people sought Padre Pio with similar stories. People who couldn't sleep because of nightmares. People tormented by painful memories. People who simply felt something was missing in their spiritual lives. And to each of them, Padre Pio offered the same, seemingly simple solution. A paper cross, a few whispered words, and the promise that their dreams would reveal what needed healing. But you must be wondering, how does this really work? What is the mechanism behind this spiritual healing through dreams? Let me tell you about another case that will give you chills. Joseph was a 45-year-old man who had suffered from insomnia for almost a decade. He had tried everything: medication, therapy, dietary changes. Nothing worked. His nights were an endless cycle of anxiety and thoughts that repeated like a broken record. He sought out Padre Pio. He was desperate. He said that if he couldn't sleep soon, he thought he would go mad. Padre Pio looked at him with that deep compassion that was his trademark. He made the paper cross in front of him, and this time, Joseph paid attention to every fold, every movement of the saint's hands. But before handing over the cross, Padre Pio did something different. He placed his hands on Joseph's head and whispered a prayer that no one else heard. Then he said, "When you place this under your pillow, don't ask to sleep. Ask to dream the truth." Joseph was confused. Dream the truth? What truth? That night, he placed the cross under his pillow and followed the instruction. Instead of asking to sleep, he whispered, "Lord, let me dream the truth." What happened that night changed his life forever. Joseph had the most vivid dream of his life. He was in a dark room, but there's a light coming from somewhere he couldn't identify. In that light, he saw his mother, who had died when he was only 12 years old. She was holding something in her hands. It was a paper cross, identical to the one under his pillow. His mother approached and said, "Joseph, you can't sleep because you can't forgive me for leaving you." She extended the cross to him. "But I never left you. I've always been here, waiting for you to let the guilt go." Joseph woke up crying. For the first time in 10 years, he had slept soundly. More importantly, he had discovered the truth his soul had been hiding. He blamed his mother for dying and leaving him alone, a guilt so deep he didn't even know he carried. Following nights, the dreams continued, each one revealing a deeper layer of his pain, each one offering an opportunity for healing he'd never had in his waking life. After a week, Joseph sought out Padre Pio again, but this time, his face was different. There was a peace there that hadn't existed before, a lightness in his eyes that told a story of liberation. Padre Pio smiled, even before Joseph spoke. "You discovered the cross wasn't for sleeping, it was for awakening," he said. "Awakening to the truths your soul was keeping." Here's the secret Padre Pio knew, but few understand. The paper cross under the pillow isn't magic. It's symbolic. It's a connection point between our conscious faith and our subconscious soul. It's a bridge between the world we know while awake and the spiritual world revealed in dreams. When we place that cross under our pillow, we're doing much more than a ritual. We're declaring our intention to allow God to work within us during sleep. We're opening our subconscious mind to receive healing, revelation, and divine guidance. There's something more, something that makes all the difference between an ordinary paper cross and one that truly produces these spiritual results. The intention with which it's made, words spoken during its creation, and the state of the heart of the one who uses it. Padre Pio always said, God doesn't work through objects. He works through the faith we place in a paper cross becomes a channel of faith, transforms it into something sacred. Here's something that will surprise you. Modern studies on the placebo effect show that when we deeply believe something will heal us, our brain literally produces chemicals that promote healing. Our bodies respond to our faith in ways science is only beginning to understand. Now imagine this effect amplified by the real presence of the Holy Spirit working through our faith. It's a powerful combination of science and spirituality, of neurology and miracle. But you want to know how to make this cross correctly? How to ensure it carries the necessary spiritual intention to produce these results? First, you need to understand that it's not just about folding paper. It's about creating a sacred moment. A moment where you consciously connect with the divine and invite God to work in your life through your dreams. Start with a piece of white paper, plain paper, nothing written on it. This is important because it represents the purity of intention. It represents your soul ready to receive what God wants to reveal. Before you begin to fold, close your eyes and say a silent prayer. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be something simple like, Lord Jesus, bless this cross I'm making. Use it to show me what I need to see. Use it to heal what needs to be healed in my soul. Now, fold the paper in half, forming a rectangle. As you do this, think about the first time you heard about Jesus. Remember that first moment of connection with the divine. Let that memory bless your hands as you work. Fold again, perpendicular to the first fold, forming a smaller square. As you do this, think about your deepest healing needs. Not just the symptoms you feel, but the wounds of the soul you know exist, even if you can't name them. Now comes the most important part. You will make two folds that will form the cross. The first fold represents the vertical line of the cross, the path between heaven and earth, between God and you. The second fold represents the horizontal line, God's love extending to encompass your entire life. Make each fold slowly, with reverence. This is not a mechanical activity. It's an act of worship. It's a moment of communion with the sacred. Look at the simple yet powerful form. You whisper a final prayer. Jesus, may this cross be a reminder, especially in my dreams. Now, when you go not in the center, but on the left side, close to your heart. This is important because it represents the position of the heart in relation to the head. The cross is positioned between where you think and where you feel. Or closing your eyes, place your hand on your chest, over your heart, and feel the presence of the cross just below your head. Say a final prayer, asking not only for a good night's sleep, but for dreams that reveal the truth your soul needs to know. Then, sleep with expectation. Sleep knowing that you have created a spiritual channel between your conscious mind and the world. Sleep trusting that Jesus will honor your faith and use dreams to show you things you need to see. But I need to warn you about something important. Dreams are not always comfortable. Sometimes. The truth our soul hides is sometimes. Healing requires us to confront wounds we'd rather keep buried. Teresa, a 38-year-old woman, experienced this intensely. She had placed the cross under her pillow because she felt a spiritual emptiness she couldn't explain. Her life seemed perfect on the outside. A good marriage, healthy children, a stable career. But inside, she felt as if something was missing. On the first night with the cross under her pillow, Teresa had a disturbing dream. She saw herself as an 8-year-old child, sitting in a dark corner, crying. In the dream, she tried to reach a light that was on the other side of the room. But every time she moved towards the light, an inner voice said, "You don't deserve it." So woke up in tears. The dream had brought back a memory she had repressed for decades. The memory of feeling rejected by her father, who constantly criticized her and rarely showed affection. A wound so deep that she had spent her entire life trying to prove she was worthy of love. But here's the miracle. In the following nights, the dreams continued, but they began to show healing. On the second night, she dreamt of Jesus approaching that child in the dark corner. He knelt beside her and said, "You have always been worthy." On the third night, she dreamt she was embracing her father. But this time, she was an adult and could forgive. On the fourth night, she saw herself radiating a light emanating from her own heart. Teresa discovered that the paper cross under her pillow didn't just reveal wounds, it also showed the path to healing. That's exactly what Padre Pio knew. That God uses our dreams to perform spiritual surgery, to remove what harms us and heal what's broken. First, He needs to show us where the wounds are. That's why it's so important to approach this practice with courage and faith. Courage to face the truths our soul reveals, and faith to believe that every painful revelation comes with the promise of healing. But there's something more about this paper cross you need to know. Something that determines its spiritual efficacy. It needs to be remade regularly. Padre Pio recommended remaking the cross every 7 days, not because the paper wears out, but because the act of remaking the cross renews our spiritual intention. It renews our faith. It renews our invitation for God to work in our lives. Each week, when you remake the cross, you have the opportunity to reflect on the dreams of the previous week, to give thanks for the revelations received, to ask for greater clarity in the revelations to come. And here's something few know. Padre Pio kept a spiritual journal where he recorded the most significant dreams people shared with him. He discovered patterns. He discovered that certain types of dreams appeared at specific moments in the process of spiritual healing. For example, he noticed that in the first few nights, most people dreamt of their deepest wounds. These were difficult dreams, but necessary, like a spiritual cleansing that needs to happen before real healing can begin. Second week, the dreams changed. Figures of light, angels, or Jesus himself began to appear. It was as if the soul, after revealing its wounds, was ready to receive divine consolation. In the third week, something extraordinary happened. People began to dream of future versions of themselves, healed versions, at peace, radiating a light they never imagined possessing. But there's a crucial detail Padre Pio discovered. A detail that can make the difference between a superficial spiritual experience and a profound transformation of the soul. The cross must be made in a state of spiritual fasting. This doesn't necessarily mean fasting from food, although that can help. It means fasting from distractions, from negativity, from empty conversations on the day you remake the cross. It means spending the day in preparing your soul to receive divine revelations. Anthony, a 52-year-old man, learned this in the most surprising way. He had used the cross for 3 weeks, but the dreams seemed confused, fragmented. He saw flashes of images, but nothing that made complete sense. He began to doubt if the practice really worked. When he sought Padre Pio to report his experience, the saint asked a question that caught him off guard. "What state of mind have you been making the cross?" Anthony admitted that he usually remade the cross at night, after a day filled with work, conversations, television, worldly worries. His mind was always agitated when the time came to fold the paper. Padre Pio smiled with that paternal wisdom that was his characteristic. "My son, how do you expect God to whisper to your soul if it's shouting with the worries of the world?" Then he instructed Anthony to remake the cross the following morning, but under specific conditions. Wake up an hour earlier. Don't turn on the radio. Don't talk to anyone. Don't read the newspaper. Just take a shower. Say a silent prayer, and then in complete inner silence, fold the new cross. Anthony followed the instructions. That night, everything changed. He had the clearest dream of his life. He saw himself walking through a garden where each flower represented a person he had hurt throughout his life. In the center of the garden, there was a giant paper cross, shining as if it were made of pure light. As he approached the cross, a gentle voice said, "These flowers withered because you carry unconfessed guilt. But see," the cross touched each flower, and they began to bloom again. Forgiveness isn't just about forgiving others. It's about allowing God to forgive you. Anthony woke up knowing exactly what he needed to do. He spent the following days seeking out people to whom he owed apologies. People he had hurt with harsh words, with negligence, with pride. Each apology, he felt a weight being lifted from his heart. But the most incredible thing came the following. Anthony dreamt again of the garden. This time, he was the gardener, and the paper cross was in his hands. No longer giant, but the perfect size to fit in his heart. The voice said, "Now you understand. The cross wasn't for you to carry your guilt. It was for you to learn to carry it with love." This is the kind of transformation that Padre Pio saw happen repeatedly. People who began the practice seeking relief from external symptoms, but discovered that true healing lay in the complete renewal of the soul. Here's something modern science confirms about this experience. Research in neurotheology shows that intense spiritual practices, especially those involving sacred symbols and focused intention, literally alter the structure of the brain. Areas associated with compassion and spiritual perception become more active and more developed. It's as if the physical brain adapts to receive and process transcendent experiences with greater clarity. Something even more fascinating. Studies on synchronicity show that people in deep spiritual practices begin to experience meaningful coincidences much more frequently, as if the universe began to conspire to support their healing journey. Isabel experienced this in a striking way. Started using the cross under her pillow because she felt spiritually lost. Her faith was weak, dreams were rare, meaningless, and she felt as if God were distant from her life. First week, the dreams were vague, day slightly clearer. In the third week, that something extraordinary happened. Isabella dreamt she was lost in a dark forest. She'd been walking for hours, finding no way out. Panic began to set in when she saw a faint light in the distance. As she approached, she discovered the light emanated from a small paper cross fastened to a tree. In her dream, she took the cross and immediately knew the way home, not just intellectually, but she felt in her entire being the right direction to follow. When she awoke, Isabella felt different. There was a certainty in her heart that hadn't existed before, a feeling that no matter how lost she felt in life, there would always be a path back to God. Here's the part that will give you goosebumps. That same morning, while walking to work, Isabella encountered a situation that seemed straight out of her dream. An elderly woman stood on the corner, clearly lost and confused. She looked around wildly, tears in her eyes. Isabella approached and offered her help. The woman explained she'd left home for a doctor's appointment, become disoriented. She couldn't remember the address. Her phone was dead, and panic was setting in. Isabella not only helped the woman find her way, she accompanied her to the doctor's office, waited during the appointment, and took her back home. As they parted, the woman clasped Isabella's hands and said, "You were like an angel to me today, a light in the darkness." At that moment, Isabella understood. The dream wasn't just about her finding her way. It was about her becoming the way for others who were lost. This is the depth of transformation the paper cross under the pillow can evoke. It doesn't just heal our wounds. It transforms us into instruments of healing for others. Padre Pio always said, "The true miracle isn't when God solves our problems. It's when He uses us to solve the problems of others." Here's where many people make a crucial mistake in the practice of the cross under the pillow. They focus only on what they can receive, the dreams they'll have, the revelations they'll obtain, the healing they'll experience. But Padre Pio taught that the practice becomes truly powerful when we shift the focus. When we begin to pray not only for our own healing, but for God to show us how we can be instruments of healing for others. When you make your next paper cross, try adding this intention: "Lord, heal me so that I may heal others. Reveal the truth to me so that I may help others find the truth. Use my dreams to prepare me to serve." This change in perspective completely transforms the experience. Joseph, a 41-year-old businessman, discovered this when he was going through a devastating financial crisis. He had lost almost everything in bad investments and was on the brink of bankruptcy. He started using the cross under his pillow, asking for divine guidance on how to rebuild his financial life. His first dreams were about his past greed, about how he had put money above relationships, about how he had neglected his family in pursuit of material success. They were hard dreams, but necessary. After 2 weeks, Joseph made a change in his prayer. Instead of asking only for his own financial restoration, he began to ask God to show him how he could use any future blessings to help others who were going through similar difficulties. That night, he had a dream that changed everything. In the dream, he was in a room full of people who seemed desperate, lost, in financial despair. All of them held paper crosses like his. The voice said, "These people don't need money. They need hope. You will be the bearer of that hope." Joseph woke up, directly from heaven. Instead of focusing solely on rebuilding his own wealth, he would start a support group for people in financial crisis, a place where they could share practical strategies, but also find spiritual and emotional. Started with 5 people gathered in Joseph's living room. Within 6 months, it had expanded to 3 different cities. And the most incredible thing is that by helping others rebuild their financial lives, Joseph discovered opportunities and insights that led him to greater prosperity than he had ever experienced before. This time, the prosperity came with purpose. It came with the deep satisfaction of knowing that he was being used by God to bless others. This is the pattern Padre Pio observed repeatedly. When people shifted the focus of their requests from heal me to heal me so that I may heal others, the miracles multiplied. And this leads us to a profound truth about the nature of spiritual healing. God rarely heals us solely for our own benefit. He heals us so that we may become channels of his healing for the world. The cross under the pillow, then, becomes much more than a personal practice of devotion. It becomes spiritual training. A night school where we learn to be co-workers with God in the healing of humanity. But there's something else you need to know about this practice, something that determines not only its effectiveness, but its duration. The paper cross is not to be used indefinitely. Padre Pio taught that there are 3 distinct phases in the journey of the cross under the pillow, and each phase has a specific duration, a specific purpose, and specific signs that it is complete. The first phase is the revelation of wounds. It usually lasts between 21 and 40 days. During this phase, dreams reveal unresolved traumas, hidden guilt, buried resentments, deep-seated fears. It's a difficult phase, but essential. It's the spiritual cleansing that needs to happen before real healing can begin. You know this phase is over when dreams cease to be predominantly about problems and begin to show solutions. When you stop dreaming only of wounds and start dreaming of healing. The second phase is the reconstruction of the soul. This phase can last from 30 to 60 days. Dreams now show healing processes, encounters with divine figures, practical guidance for life, and a growing sense of inner peace. You begin to dream not only about who you were, but about who you are becoming. This phase ends when you begin to have dreams about other people. When your dreams expand beyond your own needs and begin to include visions of how you can serve, help, and bless others. The third phase is the spiritual mission. This is the most beautiful phase, and it can last anywhere from 30 to 90 days. Your dreams now become about purpose, a divine calling, specific ways to serve God and humanity. You dream of opportunities, connections, and strategies to make a difference in the world. This phase ends naturally when you no longer need the paper cross under your pillow to maintain your connection with God through dreams. Practice has become so internalized that your entire life has become a continuous prayer. The entire process usually takes between 3 and 6 months, and Padre Pio observed that people who completed the entire cycle experienced permanent transformations. Not just temporary healing, complete renewal of the soul. But here's something important. After completing the cycle, you can return to the practice whenever you feel the need for greater spiritual clarity, or when facing important life decisions. But now you use it not as someone seeking basic healing, but as someone seeking divine guidance for your specific mission in the world. Sister Agnes experienced this complete progression. Began the practice because she was going through a deep depression after the death of her mother. First dreams were painful, feeling all the guilt she felt for not having spent more time with her mother in her final years. Second phase, she dreamed of her mother several times. Each dream, her mother reassured her, forgave her, and encouraged her to move on. Sister Agnes began to feel a peace she hadn't experienced in months. In the third phase, something extraordinary happened. She began to dream about other people who were grieving. Specific people, with faces she could clearly remember upon waking. The dreams, She was comforting these people, sharing the peace she had found. Sister Agnes began looking for ways to help grieving people. She volunteered at hospitals, offered support in grief groups, and eventually created a ministry in her church specifically for people who had lost loved ones. 5 years later, hundreds of people had been comforted through Sister Agnes's ministry, and it all started with a simple paper cross under her pillow. That's the true power of this practice. It's not just about receiving healing, it's about becoming a channel of healing. But there's one last thing you need to know, the most important of all. The paper cross under your pillow is not magic. It's a simple sacrament, a point of connection between our faith and God's action in our lives. It works not because the paper has special powers, but because our faith activates the power of God that has always been available. The cross is simply the physical form of our spiritual intention. The deepest truth of all, the cross you place under your pillow is just a symbol of the cross that Jesus carried for you. You lie down each night with this cross close to your heart. You are declaring your trust in Christ's sacrifice and your openness to receive all the benefits of that sacrifice, including the benefit of the completion of your soul through dreams. Padre Pio knew that Jesus didn't just die to give us eternal life in the future. He died to give us abundant life now. This abundant life includes heal, reveal, guide, and transform. You make your paper cross tonight. Remember that you are not just making a religious object. You are creating a meeting point between your soul and the heart of God. You are opening a door for the Creator of the universe to work in the intimacy of your dreams. You wake up tomorrow. Whatever dream you had, know that it was no coincidence. It was God speaking to you in the language your soul understands best. The language of symbols, of images, of experiences that touch the heart more deeply than any words ever could. The cross under the pillow is not just a devotional practice. It's an invitation to a life where the supernatural becomes natural, where miracles become daily experiences, where the distance between heaven and earth is reduced to a piece of paper folded with faith. Perhaps tonight will be the first night of the rest of your spiritual life. First night where you experience what it means to have God actively working on the renewal of your soul while you sleep. Because in the end, it's not about the paper cross, it's about the cross of Christ. And when you understand that, when you truly understand that every little cross you make is an echo of the great cross that changed history, then you understand that there is nothing small or insignificant about folding a piece of paper with faith. There is only the infinite love of God finding a simple and beautiful way to touch your life deeply and permanently. Tonight, when you lay your head on your pillow, you will not just be sleeping, entering a spiritual operating room. Great physician of souls works on the deepest parts of your being. When you wake up, you may not feel a difference immediately, but something will have changed. Something always changes when we invite God to work in our lives. Paper cross is just the invitation, but the work it represents is eternal.